Om Sada Shiva Samarambham
Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara.
Om Sahana
Sahana Bhavatu
Sahana
Sahanam
Bhavatu
Bhunaktu
Sahaviryam
Sahaviryam
Karvavahai
Karvavahai
Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Vishavahai. So we will continue where we left off. We had finished the 6th mantra, first section, 3rd chapter. So we are on the 7th mantra. We will chant. Brichata divyamachintya rupam
Brichata divyamachintya rupam
Brahachata divyamachintya rupam
Brichata divyamachintya rupam
Sukshmachatat sukshmataram vibhati
Sukshmachatat sukshmataram vibhati
Durat sudure tadihanti kecha Durat sudure tadihanti kecha Pashyatsi vahaivan hitam guhayam. What happened? I can't hear any one of y'all.
Yeah.
You can hear me now?
Yes, Acharya, we can hear you now. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. So we'll do the last line once again. Pashyatsi vahaivan hitam guhayam.
Pashyatsi Haivan Guhayam.
Okay. So we are talking about the need to appreciate Nirguna Brahman. And for that appreciation of Nirguna Brahman, there is a difference from the appreciation of Saguna Brahman. Saguna Brahman has a form, and therefore appreciating it is like appreciating any other object, of course, in a much more vastly expanded manner. But the point is, Saguna Brahman, by definition, has got a form. So extremely developed intellect is not required. Ati Sukshma Buddhi is not required. But for Nirguna Brahman, you require a very, very fine intellect. Ati Sukshma Buddhi. Saguna Brahman in the Ekarupa form is understood by almost everybody. Even when you move from Ekarupa to Anekarupa, Vishwarupa Ishvara is Saguna Brahman only. And yes, it requires a vastly expanded mind, much more expansive than the one which appreciates Ekarupa Ishvara. But that is Saguna Brahman only. So Vishwarupa Ishvara is also available for sensory perception. But Nirguna Brahman has no attributes, and because Nirgunam, no attributes. And therefore one has to prepare the intellect through various sadhanas like upasanas. So earlier we saw some upasanas on Panchabhutas, Prithvi, Jalam, Agni. These are all easier. And even among the Panchabhutas, the first three, the lowest three, Prithvi, Jalam, Agni is easy because they have got form. But Vayu and Akasha meditation is more difficult, requires a more refined mind. And Akasha is the most subtle among the 5 elements, and therefore Shastra often recommends that you should do a lot of meditation on Akasha, about the various similarities with Atma, because it refines your mind and prepares you for understanding Atma. Now, this Atma is more subtle than the mind itself, and therefore you require a particularly perceptive, particularly refined mind, and that is being discussed here. So the Brahma Lakshanam, the Nirguna Brahma Lakshanam, is being discussed here, and he says Tad Brahat Cha. So Brahat Cha is what it says. So when you break the sandhi, it becomes Tat Brahat Cha. That Tat, that Atma is Brahat, infinite. And infinite, it means without any boundaries, present everywhere. And therefore, Shankara says Sarvato Vyaptavat. Because of all pervasiveness, it is called limitless. So there is no place, there is no spot in space, in Akasha, where that Brahman is not there. So normally when you say limited, there is a spatial boundary. Some boundary is there in space. And when you say limitless, it means there is no spatial boundary at all. And if there is no spatial boundary, what does it mean? That Brahman is there anywhere that you can think about in space. And therefore, for this Brahman, Sarvato Vyaptavat, because of its limitlessness, all pervasiveness, we cannot say there is any boundary at all. Brahacha, infinite it is. In fact, if you remember Tattva Bodha, space itself is born out of Brahman only, right? Okay. Now, when we say all pervading, what does it really mean? When we say all pervading, what does it mean? It means that it is all pervading in what form? When I say Atma is all pervading, it means you have to think of the existence principle itself. It is in the form of the very existence. So the first line, Brahacha, is referring to the all-pervading Sat aspect, existence aspect of Atman, the first word. And then the next word is Tad Divyam. Divyam is awareness, consciousness. That witness consciousness, because of which we can perceive the arrival and departure of thoughts. And indeed, we can also perceive the absence of thoughts. And therefore, in these two words, Brahat Cha Divyam, the existence aspect and the consciousness aspect of Brahman has been defined. And Shankara in his Bhashyam, he gives one more meaning to Divyam. He says Divyam means self-illuminating. Since it is self-illuminating, the Indriyas are not required. None of the Indriyas are required, and therefore not available to the Indriyas as a Prameyam. So self-illuminating is a Prameyam. Sense organs, remember, reveal only what is not self-evident. Whenever you are seeing something, the organs are necessary, the instruments are necessary, because whatever is being revealed is requiring the use of those sense organs to reveal it. A self-illuminating body need not reveal itself. Therefore, Atman, which is the very reason why sense organs function, is not required to be revealed by the sense organs. That also is another meaning of Divyam. So there are two meanings we have. One is Shankara's meaning, self-illuminating. Another is witness consciousness. Both are very closely related. Any meaning you take is fine. Then, Achintya Rupam. Achintyam means that which cannot be conceived by the mind, that which cannot be thought of, and therefore aprameyam, not available as an object. You cannot experience Brahman. Why do we say that Brahman cannot be conceived by the mind? What is the reason? Very subtle point. When I say the mind is needed to conceive Brahman, why is that statement wrong? All Mananam questions.
Then it will be two things. There is no Advaitam. There will be Dvaitam, like
Well,
experiencer and object of experience.
so then what? What
It
is
is the very experiencer itself.
So what of which
Mind.
of the earlier definitions are contradicted when you say Brahman is revealed by the mind?
Divyam.
Divyam is contradicted. Okay. So if you are saying that Brahman is revealed by the mind, remember that you are also saying that Brahman is evident because of the mind. And therefore you are denying the self-revealing property, the self-evident property of Brahman. And therefore you have to say that Brahman is not available to the mind for experiencing. Right? Another argument, of course, is that, which Shankara does not give, but we know, is that whatever you experience is always matter. Whether it is outside you or inside you does not matter. If you are experiencing something, you are the experiencer, the consciousness principle. Whatever you experience is always matter. Outside you, it is the world. World is external matter. Inside you, they are thoughts, also internal matter. So world is object, thoughts are object, Atma is subject, and therefore achintyam, not capable of being defined as an object, objectifiable, use that word. So no jati, no gunas, no kriyas, no sambandha. And therefore he says, tat sukshmataram, sukshmat, sukshmataram, subtler than the subtlest. Tat is the Atma, that Brahman, sukshma, more subtle than the subtlest. Sukshmat, sukshmataram, subtler than the subtlest. Right? So for example, if you go back to Tattva Bodha, when you go to the Prithvi, the fifth Panchamahabhutani, the fifth Bhutani, you have Prithvi available to all the five sense organs, because Prithvi has got five gunas, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, and therefore Prithvi can be perceived by all the five Indriyas. What about Apaha, water? Water has Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, can be perceived by four sense organs. You go one step higher, Agni, Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa. So these three have got Rupa also, and Sparsha also, and Shabda also. Vayu has no Rupa. So Vayu is Shabda and Sparsha only, there is no form. Akasha has only Shabda, which is Avyakta Shabda, unmanifest Shabda. So each element is getting subtler and subtler. And that is what he means here. Sukshmat, Sukshmataram. It is subtler than the subtlest thing available, which is saying that it is Indriya Agocharam, cannot be understood by any Indriyas. And Shankara adds here, Akashadapi, as subtle, it is very subtle, like Akasha. And Shankara adds a very important word, that this subtle nature is Nir-Atishayam. Atishayam means that which can be crossed, exceeded. Nir-Atishayam means that which cannot be crossed by anything. The most superior thing is called Nir-Atishayam. And since it is the most superior and the most subtle, it is also the cause of everything. And what is the reason? Because every cause, this is all basic principles of Tattva Bodha. I hope you remember. Every karanam has to be more subtle than the karya. right? What is the karyam of karanam of Prithvi?
Excuse me, apaha.
Apaha. Apaha is more subtle or less subtle
More
than
subtle.
Prithvi. Why?
More subtle. It is
Why?
perceived by only
Four indriyas. Okay.
four.
Similarly,
Yeah.
when you go back to the cause for Agni, karanam for Apaha is Agni. Agni has got three gunas, and therefore Agni is more subtle than water, which has four gunas. Similarly, Vayu has two gunas, and Akasha has one guna. Each karanam is more subtle than the karyam, and therefore he says Niratishayam means it's the most subtle one. Since it is the most subtle one, this Atma is the ultimate karanam. It has no other entity which is more subtle than that Atma. So it has to be subtler than all the karyam. Okay. Then the next word is Vibhati. Vibhati means shines. But you have to take it as the literal meaning of Vibhati is Vividam Bhati iti Vibhati. That which shines in different forms. And therefore, this word Vibhati here can be taken as experienced in. And therefore, this most subtle Atma is experienced in various forms. That is what Vibhati means. It is not said in the mantra, so Shankara adds in various forms like Aditya, Chandra, etc., like the sun and the moon. And of course, in that is included everything, all the jivas, all the mountains, all the rivers, all the trees. Anything which you experience, he says, ultimately is Atma alone. Very nice understanding. First, I say that Atma experiences Karyam. Karanam experiences Karyam. I, as consciousness principle, I experience everything which is matter. And now we say that no, what is experienced is also matter. Only you have to understand that this Atma is experienced along with what? Pure Brahman cannot be experienced as pure Brahman, obviously. And therefore, if you are experiencing Brahman, you are experiencing it along with something. And what is that? You only look around you and tell me what it is. Whatever you see is Brahman. What are you experiencing Brahman as?
Prakriti,
Jagat.
all the names and forms.
All the names and forms. Your answers are all correct. Prakriti is correct. Jagat is correct. But remember, the generic name for all that is names and forms. You are experiencing that consciousness principle along with name and form, right? Just like when I put out my hand, what you see is the hand. But your actual understanding is that you are experiencing the light along with my hand. Pure light, the light principle can never be experienced. I hope you know that, right? The light principle can never be experienced. In that case, somebody will ask, what about the daylight? How do I experience that? Because there is no object. What is the answer? Anybody, any science student would know.
The light, the sunlight and everything is experienced because the light gets reflected from the objects which are in the way of the light principle.
Supposing there are no objects in front of you. You still see light, right? That is why you see daylight.
Ravi
You say,
ji,
Natarajan ji, you know the answer, I'm sure. Anyway, go ahead.
remain silent.
No. Okay, you give somebody else a chance, and if they don't, then you say.
I think we have discussed this, Raviji. I'm not good in science, but I remember you said there are thousands of dust particles and minute particles which reflects light.
Okay, Natarajan ji.
See, it is because of the scattering of the light of the dust. One. Second, if you go back to even more basics, the Light is perceived because of the electromagnetic waves that it hits you. It's outside the visible region, but the visible part gets reflected, and that hits your eyes.
Excellent. So that's Kush's answer is correct. Natarajanji's answer, of course, is more scientific, and it's more refined. That is also correct. So basically, you should know that the idea is something is reflecting it. It's not that it's seen without anything. So the reflecting, whatever is reflecting is what? Name and form only. And therefore, pure light cannot be experienced, but you can see my hand. Okay, then is Durat Sadure. Durat Sadure, further than the furthest. That Atma is further than the furthest. And here you have to understand very carefully. When Atma is all pervading, it is there right in front of you. So why does the mantra say further than the furthest? So the answer is a very nice one. It says that if you don't understand that Atma is all pervading, in fact, if you don't understand that you yourself are the Atma, then you are going to search for that Atma. So you are an Ajnani, ignorant person. And for the one who searches for Atma or Brahman, that search will never be successful. And therefore it is very far away. For one who searches for Brahman, it is very far away because the one who searches for Brahman can never reach Brahman. So Durat Sudure. The idea is that one should not look for Brahman as something which I can search for, which I can look for. Why? Because it's my own nature. The one who searches, the sadhaka, I am that same Brahman, so there is no need for me to search. And then the next one is Tadihanti Kecha. So that has to be broken up carefully. Tat Iha Cha Antike. Tat Iha Antike. Closer than the closest. Antike is proximity. Iha is here. Closer than the closest, which is here. And where is that available? It is available in the body. So, Iha Dehe Antike. It is close. It is close because it is Iha Dehe Samipe, very close in the body. In your own body, it is available as the witness consciousness. And therefore, for the wise person, the Atma is very close. For the ignorant person, the Atma is very far away. So, Dura Sudure Tadihantikecha. Okay, and that Atma is what actually? That Atma is there in everybody. Then the last line is Pashyat Siva Haiva Nihitam Guhayam. You have to break it up as Pashyatsu Guhayam Nihitam. Pashyatsu Hi Eva Nihitam Guhayam. So, Nihitam Guhayam, that Nihitam, it is residing in where? Guhayam, in the cave. Now, the word cave, Guha, is usually used by Shastram to refer to the mind, everybody's mind. So, Pashyatsu Nihitam Guhayam, that Atma can be seen in the cave. Why cave? Because cave is dark and you cannot see inside. And mind is dark because it is ignorant and you cannot see inside. So it is available in the mind as Iha Eva. Iha means here itself in the mind as what? Eva. Eva is as the Jiva himself. Indeed, as their own self. To recognize this Atma, which is present in the dark cave of your mind, dark because you have not yet studied Shastram, it is not yet understood, and therefore it is dark, therefore it is the cave. And to understand that the Atma is nowhere else but in me, myself, another sadhana is required. And that is being spoken about in the next mantra, which we will chant. So mantra number 8. We will chant it. So please unmute yourself. Na chakshusha grahyate napi vacha.
Na
Na
chakshusha
chakshusha
grihate
grihate
napi
napi
vacha.
vacha.
Nanyai devais tapasa karmana va.
Nanyai
Nanye
devais
devais
tapasa
tapasa
karmana
karmana.
Jnana prasadena vishuddha sattvaha.
Jnana
Prasadena
prasadena
Vishuddasattvaha.
Tatastutam pasyate nishkalam dhyayamanaha.
Tatastu
Tatam
pashyate
pasyate
nishkalam
nishkalamdhyayamanaha.
Okay. So mantra number 8. Now, before we enter into the mantra, a little digression, a little background. Okay. Now, Shankara has, of course, as you know, there is a text called Brahma Sutras. Okay. So, Brahma Sutras is basically the exposition of Vedanta. In fact, if you say which is the single Vedantic text, it has to be Brahma Sutras. Now, Brahma Sutra is written by whom? Acharya. And when we come to the sutras, you will see that they are simple sutras. Like he gives one simple sutra. And in that sutra, there's a world of ideas expressed. And usually every sutra refers to some mantra in some Upanishad. Okay. And Vyasacharya assumes that we know, we are all got smart. So he doesn't say anything at all. He just gives a sutra and goes on. So unless you know the mantra, you cannot even begin to analyze the sutra. And therefore Shankaracharya supplies the mantras in his various bhashyams. And sometimes he gives the mantra, but gives a very brief picture. So there are various commentators also. So there are some of these commentators are. So we have basically the Brahma Sutras of Vyasacharya, the Shankara Bhashyam on Brahma Sutras by Shankaracharya. Then there are some commentators. So there's one commentator called Padmapada, right? He's written a commentary called Panchapadika. That's a commentary on Shankara Bhashya. Then there is another commentator called Prakasha Atman. He's written a sub-commentary on what? On the Panchapadika itself. Okay. And this Prakasha Atman, because of his commentary, which is called, it's called the Vivarna school. From that commentary of his, there's a whole school of Advaitic thought called the Vivarna school, based on that sub-commentary. Now, why I'm saying is that because this Vivarna school has a particular, theory, particular thesis. They say that Mahavakyam produces Jnana. It is called the Vivarna Sampradaya. So Mahavakyam produces Jnanam, it says, which means what? Mahavakyam is heard how? Through Shravanam. So there is a prominence given to Shravanam. Shravanam is predominantly taken as the main sadhana by this Vivarna school, Vivarna Sampradaya. Then there is another commentator called Vachaspati Mishra. He has written a commentary also, a sub-commentary on Shankaracharya's Brahma Sutra Bhashya. His thesis is that it is not just the Shravanam which produces the knowledge. It is the mind which is backed by Mahavakyam, which produces the knowledge. The difference is very subtle but very important. Vivarna school says that Mahavakyam produces Jnanam. Vachaspati Mishra says that Mahavakyam produces Jnanam only when the mind is involved. And this is called Bhamati Sampradaya. So there are two main Sampradayas. Vivarna Sampradaya, Shravanam produces Jnanam. Bhamati Sampradaya says that Shravanam backed by mind produces Jnana. What is the difference, do you see? These two, incidentally, the main schools of Advaitic Vedanta. What is the difference? You don't see?
Raviji, can I try?
Please, Meda.
Shravan, like the difference between hearing and listening, is that what they mean? Like physical hearing, which is just the words falling on the ears, backed by mind means that it is also processed in the mind and not just, words falling on the ears.
Okay, now remember that we have discussed this, I think, in Gita Bhashyam or something. When we say that somebody is doing Shravanam, what he can do is just make sure that his mind is focused and sitting there available. And therefore, once the pramata is ready, the words falling on the ears, they produce the jnana. Right? That is the meaning of the Mahavakyam producing jnanam, which is the Vivarana Sampradaya. But the Bhamati Sampradaya is saying that you have to use your mind later, which means you have to do some mananam also. Shravanam alone is okay, but that meditation, the dhyanam on the verses are necessary. Shankara, in this mantra at least, he is supporting the second sampradaya, because Upanishad is talking about the importance of meditation in the mind. And therefore, when he writes the verse, why it is important is because for once Shankara is supporting meditation. Okay. So he is saying, in this verse, he says that there is in fact, it's expansion of the previous words. He says that this is a very special sadhana, right, for getting jnana. And it's an expansion of the previous verse. What is meant by Sukshma Buddhi? Sukshma Buddhi means, number one, there is an undisturbed mind. So Sattva, Gunaha, Pradhanam, Manaha. A mind which is free of Rajoguna or minimum Rajoguna, minimum Tamoguna, because the mind cannot be totally free of any of the gunas. So where the Sattva Guna is predominating. Sattva Guna has overshadowed Rajoguna and Tamoguna, which is a quiet, tranquil, undisturbed mind. That is number one. The first qualification for Sukshma Buddhi. And therefore, is available for what? For Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, especially Nididhyasanam. Now, how do you improve the Sattvika portion of your mind? How do you make your mind Sattva predominant? Remember, what he is saying is that other than doing Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam with a Sattvika mind, Sattvika predominant mind, there is no way of getting jnana. Right? And therefore, the focus is that you must have a Sattvika predominant mind, which means what? Which sampradaya is being talked about? It is the second sampradaya. Because your mind can be made peaceful. What is the strongest way of making your mind peaceful? Meditation, concentration, meditation, samadhi. These are all the methods available. And any upasana which you do, any meditation which you do, it is increasing your sattva portion, right? And therefore, that is what is being said here. When you look at the first line, na chakshusha grihate na api vachaha. You have to supply atma. This atma, na chakshusha grihate, cannot be grasped with the eyes. And na api vacha grihate, cannot be understood through words. It's not available for verbal description also. You cannot describe that Atma, describe the Brahman. Because words can describe only material world. All words are designed to describe Saguna Prapancha only. And Brahman is not available for any kind of description. So the mind has to be quiet. And not only that, the mind has to be mind capable of understanding. So there is a very nice Subhashitam. Yasya nasti swayam prajna. For that person, where the intellectual capacity, swayam prajna is the intellectual capacity, the subtle intellect. Yasya nasti swayam prajna, for that person who doesn't have the necessary intellectual capacity, shastram tasya karoti kim. What can shastram do for him? An example is given. Lochana bhyam vihinasya, for the one who does not have eyes, darpanam kim karishyati. What can the mirror do for him? In a similar manner, since the mirror is of no use to a person who has no eyes, the Shastram is of no use to a person who does not have Sukshma Buddhi. So the best Shastram may be there, Vedanta. The best Guru Brahmaji himself may be there. But if Swayam Prajna, the Sattvika mind is not there, that Shastram, that teaching is of no use. So therefore he is focusing on my intellectual capacity, which can be had only in a mind which is very sharp and which is quiet also, undisturbed. Okay. Then he says, na, so you have to look at the breakup very carefully. Na anya devaihi tapasa karmana va. Okay. So nanyair, na anyaihi devaihi, that half sir disappears, visarga comes over there. Na anyaihi devaihi tapasa karmana va. And when understanding, you have to take that na twice. Na anya devaihi, na tapasa, na karmana va. So anya devahi. Devaha here means it got a technical meaning. It means the sense organs, the jnana indriyams, right? So this is basically deva is used because it is referring to the adhisthana devata of the indriyas we saw in Tattva Bodha, right? So na anye devahi. Where should you connect this deva to? Look at the first line. Where are you going to connect this deva, this particular deva to?
To the eyes.
Chakshu.
Eyes, the indriya.
Chakshus, right? Chakshus are eyes. And na anya deha means none of the other. Eyes are sense organ. Na anya means none of the other sense organs. So reading is extremely important. Connecting is extremely important. None of the other sense organs. You have to pull the na grihyate from the top. Na anyai devaihi grihyate. None of the other sense organs can grasp. Okay, right. Now, if nothing can be grasped, how can you put that into words? That entity which has not been grasped by any of the indriyas cannot be expressed in verbal mode also. Therefore, he says, what? Na vacha. That vacha has to be connected here. Words cannot directly describe that Brahman, right? Okay. Now here, this vacha, remember, it's like saying, that the word tree, there are two things. There is a pada and there is a padartha. So pada means word. Padartha means the object being referred to by that word. So supposing you say tree. So tree is the pada, the word. But the moment the word tree is said, in your mind what comes? The object, the actual tree comes. That is the padartha. Right. Now here you cannot take that meaning for Brahman. Why? That Padartha meaning cannot be taken for Brahman. That is why he says, Na api vacha. Words cannot describe. Because how do words describe? Words describe by connecting the pada to a Padartha. When I say there is the moon, Chandra, the word Chandra is a pada. But you have been taught that shining object in the sky in the night, that is the object which is referred to by the word pada. So Chandra pada has got Chandra padartha. And when he says navacha, he says that kind of a relationship cannot be there. That you say Brahman and some object pops up into your mind. That kind of relationship cannot be there. Which means, other words, that out of the two types of meanings, there is a direct meaning, vachyartham, and there is an indirect meaning, lakshyartham. Brahman will never have a vachyartham for any word. A very involved explanation of the word vacha. It means, na vacha means Brahman will never have a vachyartham for any word. Any word can be used only as lakshyartham for Brahman. And this is important because any word is finite. And any word, therefore, if you are using vachyartham, the direct meaning, any word can reveal only a finite object. And therefore, lakshyartham is needed because Shastra is using words which are finite tools to reveal Brahman, which is infinite. Therefore, you cannot use vachyartham. You have to use lakshyartham only. Okay. Then, na tapasa. Atma cannot be grasped by tapas. Okay. Why? Because Atma is the very tapasvi himself. The one who is doing the tapas, his own nature is Atma. How can you grasp it? And therefore, tapas, austerity is very important. Of course, it is important, but it is only capable of giving you chitta shuddhi. It cannot substitute Vedanta Shravanam. Okay, now one of the reasons which is given very often is, when you say that tapas cannot substitute Vedanta Shravanam, remember we have talked about 6 pramanams for jnanam, right? And tapas is not one of those. Therefore, you can use that as a reason that na tapasa, na karmana. Neither of these are pramanams for jnanam as given in the Shastram. Therefore, they cannot give you jnanam. Okay. But, if you look at the Shastram, Upanishads, tapasa brahma vijignyasasva, it says, Taittiriya Upanishad. So, Brahman can be known through tapas. What is the meaning? What is the way of extracting meaning from a word in the Shastram when the vachyartham is not reasonable? It is to take the context and then extract the lakshyartham, right? So when you say you need tapas to understand, of course, in this mantra it says na tapasa, right? So here the context is very clear. The tapas which you do, austerity which you do, fasting, all those things are being meant over here. That Brahman cannot be known through all that. But if you ever come across a statement which says in the Shastram, a mantra which says that no Brahman through tapas, and there are many such statements, then you have to understand what tapas there means: enquiry, vichara. How do you extract? Because the context is Brahman. Brahman cannot be known excepting through jnanam. The context is therefore jnanam. And therefore tapas in any such context of knowing Brahman has to be taken as vichara, enquiry. So that is the second line, tapasa. Then na karmanava. Any amount of karma you do, that Atma cannot be grasped. So it does not mean that karma is redundant. Okay. You have to do karma to come to Chitta Shuddhi. But don't stop there. After Chitta Shuddhi, you have to come to Jnanam. So Karmana Va. So Va here means or, and you can simply understand it as na grihate. Cannot be understood through karmana also. So na tapasa or karma. Neither to tapas nor karma. Okay. Now, if you look at this third chapter itself, not very long ago, we had said labhyaha tapasahi esha atma. Where did we say? This atma can be got through tapas. Where was it? It's not very long ago. If you look at mantra number 5, the first line says that. Okay, it says Satyena labhya tapasahi esha atma. So there we said Satyena and tapasena. Through Satyam and tapas, we can get atma, we can understand atma. Here you say na tapasa grihate atma. Okay, so this is the teaching style. Karma and tapas are being presented as sadhana, which is crucial. And then when first you present it as a crucial sadhana, and then you negate it, you are not really negating the use of that sadhana. You are negating that sadhana as primary sadhana. You are saying it is a necessary sadhana. It is not the sakshat sadhana. It is not the direct sadhana. It is the secondary supportive sadhana. And secondary supportive sadhana gives you what? Chitta Shuddhi. Right? So it is the difference between the primary sadhana and the secondary sadhana. You should always remember, there are two words, sakshat sadhana, the primary sadhana, paramparik sadhana, the parampara sadhana, which is the secondary sadhana. And this difference should be very clearly understood for a Vedantic. And then you will have no confusion about various statements which say that meditation will get you jnanam. You can know Brahman through meditation. You can know Brahman through pranayama. You can do Kundalini yoga and attain Brahman. All these are which you hear from various scriptures. But you should always understand the difference between primary sadhana and secondary sadhana. Everything apart from jnanam is supportive sadhana. Jnanam alone is primary sadhana, right? And therefore he says, Vishuddha sattvaha jnana prasadena pashyate. Vishuddha sattvaha. So the third line is jnana prasadena vishuddha sattvaha. So vishuddha sattvaha jnana prasadena. And you can bring the two words tam pashyate from the fourth line. So it becomes Vishuddha sattvaha jnana prasadena tam pashyate. So Vishuddha sattvaha, the one who has done a lot of karma yoga, the one who has a lot of upasana yoga and therefore developed a lot of sadgunas. In short, the one whose mind is free from the influence of ragadvesha. The wordings are very important. Mind is free from the influence of ragadvesha, which means mind may have ragadvesha. Okay. And it's when you say my mind does not have ragadvesha, you have not understood Shastra or you have not understood the mind, or both. Remember, a mind, even that of a fully blossomed jnani, may have ragadvesha, right? Because it is a mind constantly changing. It's got three gunas, rajas, sattva, tamas. They generate various thoughts, including ragadvesha. The difference is that the one who is Vishuddha Sattvaha over here, he may have a mind which has ragadvesha, but he does not act under the influence of that mind. So that's the difference between mind having ragadvesha and mind not acting under the influence of Ragadvesha, which is why Vishuddha Sattva has to be taken as mind free from the influence of Ragadvesha. Ragadvesha may be there, but the intellect is strong enough not to be influenced. Intellect takes its own decisions. And jnana prasadena, through the blessings of jnanam. Right? Shankaraya says that all beings are by nature having the capacity to know the Atma. But they are unable to do that because he says, Bahya Vishayaha Ragadi Dosha Kalushitam. That mind is polluted by external objects, Bahya Vishayaha, like Raga Adi, like Raga, etc. And therefore it is impure and therefore does not understand. It is not that the human being is not competent to understand Atma. He is. He is born with the competence. But providing he can get his mind into shape, providing he can remove the impurities from his mind. And therefore he says, very nicely he says, the nature of the Atma and such people, it's not that that person doesn't have Atma, right? He also is Atma only. But he doesn't see the Atma. And uses a phrase which we saw in the Gita. He says, like a mirror covered with dust. Mala avanadham eva darsham. Like a mirror covered with dust. We saw that in Gita also. And he gives another example. Or like water which is agitated, moving water, where you cannot see the bottom. And he says, once you have eliminated this disturbance, either the dust or the disturbance of the water eliminated, and that elimination is, and that dust or disturbance is born from where? It is born from Indriya Vishaya Samsarga Janita, Mala. That Mala, the disturbance, is born from Indriya Vishaya Samsarga. Samsarga is the association. Between what and what? Indriya Vishaya. Between the sense organs and sense objects, wherever there is a samsarga, an association, a connection, mala janitaha, the disturbances are born. And these are the disturbances, the dust covering the mirror or the disturbance of the water. And when this disturbance is taken away, then the mind remains calm. Shantam avatishthate. And that disturbance of that removal of the disturbance of the mind, this is called Jnana Prasada. A very nice definition. That Jnana Prasada is when the impurities which are generated by the contact of the mind with sense organs, when those impurities are removed, then only it is Jnana Prasada. The mind has got the blessings of Jnanam. Right? So therefore, to have a Vishuddha Sattvaha, this whole discussion about Vishuddha Sattvaha, Sattva mind uncontaminated by Rajas and Tamas. It means that the person has become Shuddha Sattvam. His mind has no more disturbances, not under the influence of Tamas and Raja. And Shankara in his commentary, he adds, that this state of Vishuddha Sattvam, pure Sattvam, a mind free of the influence of Ragadvesha, Shankara says this Vishuddha Sattvam is not natural to a jiva. Because the normal state of a jiva's mind is what? Malina Sattva Pradhanam. That mind contaminated by Rajas and Tamas. And the sole purpose of the sadhana which you do, Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga, the sole purpose is to remove this contamination. So when your mind becomes Sattva Shuddha, Vishuddha Sattvam, remember it is still an Ajnani mind. It is a quiet, controlled, Sattvic mind, but it is still an Ajnani mind. And then, after that, when you come to Jnanam, what happens? tam pashyate nishkalam. That he sees that Atma, which is without parts. He understands that Atma. And what is the sadhana? Dhyayamanaha. By practicing nididhyasanam. Therefore, you can look at the focus of this mantra. It talks about the fact that your mind has to be brought down to a state of Vishuddha Sattva by practicing anything, any sort of sadhana. And we define that as karma yoga, upasana yoga. Once you have brought the mind to Vishuddha Sattvam, then you come to Jnanam, then you do Shravanam, then you do Mananam, and then Dhyayamanaha, you practice Nididhyasanam. When you say Dhyayamanaha, so in this mantra, only Nididhyasanam is being talked about, which is the means. But you have to presume Shravanam and Mananam have been gone through, because without that, there is no Nididhyasanam at all. And this is the special sadhana for knowing Brahman, which is one, Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. But you cannot do that unless you have done Karma Yoga and Upasana Yoga. That's why I said here, Shankara focuses on bringing the mind to Chitta Shuddhi. You will not find that in too many of his bhashyams. He assumes that everybody is, ready. But here he focuses on that and he says, yes, you first need to get ready, then only Jnanam will work on you. So with this, we'll stop for today. Any questions?
Namaste, Raviji. Can you hear?
Yeah, I can hear you, Vishwanathji. Boliye.
Yeah, just Chitta Shuddhi means we're getting rid of Raga and Dvesha completely.
No, I just explained. No? Mind can never be free of Raga Dvesha. Chitta Shuddhi means you are able to act against your likes and dislikes. You will still have likes and dislikes, but you can act against them. Knowing what is right, you can do what is right. They no longer influence your behavior. So not having likes and dislikes is a very, very dangerous term to use, because the mind can never be free of that.
Okay, so that is the reason why you said that fully blossomed Jnani may have Raga Dveshas.
May have Raga Dveshas in his mind, but he knows he is not the mind, so he just views them as that, lets it go, and does what is correct, ethical.
But when there is Raga Dvesha, will it not affect, will it not cause any disturbance in the mind?
You actually can try that out on your own. I can tell this from experience. You will have Raga Dvesha, but when you know that it's natural to the mind to have Raga Dvesha, even if the mind is disturbed, you will be able to bring about some separation between the mind and yourself. In fact, this is nothing unusual. Okay, anybody who has done any sort of high pressure job knows what it is. That there are days when your mind is upset, and yet you focus on something else because you've got a job to do. What have you done? You have ignored the mind, that portion of the mind which is disturbed, and focused on that portion which is required to get the job done.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ravi. Thank you.
So with this, we'll stop for today. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Om Shanti. Om Tat Sat, Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Acharya.
Thank you.